Hey y'all, what's happening? What's happening? Robert Kennedy III, Arcade 3. That's me in the house once again with another storyteller session. I made that up like 2 days ago because we've been doing a lot of these live sessions since we've been COVIDed, we've been coroned, we've been locked in, we've been in here, and we have nothing better to do than have conversations, right? So we've been having a whole lot of them, and we've had some amazing ones. I've had conversations with other speakers like Felicia Slattery. We've talked about what speakers, what people in the training industry should be doing right now during this time. We've had conversations with financial experts. I spoke with Casey Ann Gordon last week about how you can be arranging and dealing with your finances right now. Yesterday, spoke with Brian Olds from Black Speakers Network, and we talked a lot about what are the things that you can be doing now as your events and your business information or your business engagements have been canceled. So what are the things that you need to be doing right now? Now, today's expert is somebody that she posted something last week or a couple of weeks ago, and she talked a little bit about children and children that are used to being in school and how, especially when they are in abusive families, schools may be the only place that they go for safety, and now their schools are closed, and we don't really think about things like that. And so I started following some of the things that she was posting and really looked at how we live lives, and we've got these perspectives, and we are in our safety zones and our comfort zones, and we don't always think about the perspectives of others or the emotions that they've got to deal with or the well-being that they have. So now we're in this situation where we're home, and a lot of us are locked in, or some of us are scared in, and we're kind of trying to figure out, oh gosh, how do we live life, and what do we do on the other side of this thing, right? So I want to have a conversation today with my friend Tiffany Llewellyn. What's happening?
What's going on? I'm excited to be here.
Hey, listen, it is so amazing to have you. One of the things that I asked last week was, who are the people that I should chat with? Who are the experts that I should have some conversations with? And quite a few of the people said, what about mental health? What about our emotional well-being? We are, forget just the kids being home and having cabin fever. For a lot of us, there's a lot going on. We're being thrown a lot of information on TV. We're seeing, Fauci, the guy beside Trump, that guy. We're seeing all of this information being shared with us, and we don't know what to make of it. We don't know when it's going to end, and things are constantly changing. So, Tiff, tell us a little bit about, before we get into the deep questions, tell us a little bit about your background. What do you do? Who are you?
Yeah, so I am a clinical social worker. I have worked in multiple social service institutions, organizations, from the school to the hospital, universities, in the community, just doing clinical therapy. And so I consider myself to be a psychotherapist. Currently, I work at Johns Hopkins University as one of the clinicians there, as well as coordinating services for first generation low income students. And so my research, my passion, my area has always been around mental health, around racial trauma, specifically mental health in communities of color and stigmatized areas where we don't really have these conversations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So before we go even further, I see quite a few of you on. Do me a favor. If you have any questions as we go through this, feel free to pop those into the chat. As a matter of fact, just go ahead and post in the chat right now where you're logging in from, and I'll post a few of these on the screen. I love to see the comments coming across the screen. It actually looks pretty cool, so I want to share that. Also, feel free to share this conversation. Go ahead and click share it to a friend's timeline, share it to a group that you're in, so that we can really share this information. It's valuable information with people. All right. So, Tiffany, what are some of the things right now that you are seeing that people are experiencing as a result of being inside?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of different ways to think about it. One is people being inside, but also people are losing their jobs. People are concerned for their health. People are taking up positions and responsibilities that they've never had before, right? So parents
Yeah.
now have to teach, children now have to figure out how to learn from their parents or caregivers or whoever they live with. And so anxiety and stress is through the roof.
Yeah.
Not only anxiety and stress from just being locked inside, but what we're also keeping in mind are those children who are coming from families that are abusive, those families where home is not a safe place, not
Wow.
just children, but individuals who live with abusive partners. And so now what we're seeing is domestic violence shelters and centers are saying that their calls are through the roof. Their numbers are through the roof. People are seeking help. People are scared because being able to go to work gives you at least 8 to 10 hours outside of your home. Now you're stuck with your abuser. Now you're stuck just in
Wow.
maybe toxic family living situations, even if not physical, emotional, sexual abuse. But those are some of the realities. And so we are seeing such an increase in people's mental health during this time.
Wow.
Plus, for those who are being laid off, financial stressors, it's huge, it's layered, it's very complex. And so that's why it's really important for us to talk about the anxiety and stress along with everything else that we're talking about.
Right. So we are able to maybe analyze or feel the stuff that we feel, but we're not always so in tune with family members or other people in our families, and mental stress and emotional stress can affect people. So what are some of the things that we should be paying attention to or looking out for during this time? Is there any way for us to any signals that we should be looking at from family members, maybe about how they're dealing with their emotions during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are different ways to approach it. One, when we talk about anxiety and stress, it shows up differently for everyone, right? I think it's really important to have communication and conversation during this time
Yeah.
with the people that we are in homes with, especially our children, to help them be aware and help them to start thinking about what their anxiety and their stress is showing up as. I always like to highlight there are two main ways that I like to think about anxiety and stress. One, fight, flight, freeze. We've heard of those. So for some people, your anxiety and stress manifests itself in you wanting to fight. You're irritable, you're probably balling your fist a lot, you're clenching your jaws a lot,
Mm,
and so you have more of that physical manifestation of your anxiety and your stress. And so if we are being observant and aware and communicating, then we can help. Have you had increased heart rate?
wow.
Are you having headaches or pain that can't really be contributed towards any specific medical health issue that you had before, but all of a sudden in the last week or two there are these real physical manifestations of stress or pain in your body that you may not be thinking that that's your anxiety and your stress, but that's what it is.
Right.
For other people, it may be more emotional. So you're more irritable than you're used to being. You're more sad. There are mood swings. Are there people in your homes who have never really experienced these really high or really low, just kind of mood swings?
Mm,
And so being aware of that, people feeling overwhelmed. And so there's some emotional responses or manifestations of anxiety and stress. And then there are times the psychological mental piece. So difficulty concentrating, especially if you are trying to work with your child or your youngest sibling on some school package or whatever may have been sent home, and they can't concentrate, they can't focus, they're paranoid, they're hyper alert.
yeah.
There are the psychological mental manifestations of stress. And lastly, there's the behavioral. For some of us, we're eating more than we're used to. We're eating less than we're used to. We're
Yeah.
sleeping more than we're used to. We're sleeping less than we're used to. So really being aware and trying to take time to think about, is my anxiety and my stress manifesting itself physically, behaviorally, emotionally, mentally, psychologically? That can give us some input as to what's going on with ourselves and with people in our families.
Yeah. So I want to go to a question. I think I have some answers, but I want to get your take on this. What's the deal with the toilet paper? What's the deal with the point? So yeah, so people are going to supermarkets, people are going to stores, and everybody is taking toilet paper. And now, yeah, I get it. There's a cleanliness reason for it, but toilet paper more so than anything else seems to be what is disappearing from shelves. What from a social, from a psychological perspective, what's the deal? Tell us why that's happening.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how shopping habits, especially around this toilet paper, which I don't know if I can say on this. I won't say,
Come
but
on, we're real. Go.
I think it's such a huge analogy that in some ways we are in deep trouble or what people might call deep mess. And
Yeah.
here we are seeing this love and hoarding and need for toilet paper.
Right.
It's very psychological when I think about it.
Mhm.
But I think looking for some sense of control,
Right.
not just with the toilet paper, but with the groceries. And, I even find myself going to the grocery store and I don't need it. It's the sense of control. I need to have control over something because everything else is falling apart.
Yeah.
And for some reason, toilet paper has become that thing that makes us feel good. It makes us feel like, okay, I got my toilet paper. I'm okay. I can get through this. So it really is just some sense of control over something that this toilet paper has represented. It's very interesting.
Wow. So, what are some of the things? Let's go get prescriptive for a second here. What are some of the things that we can be doing during this time to guard our emotional well-being and our mental health? What are some things that individuals that I'm going to ask you in two ways? There are people that live by themselves. And so that's a little bit different than people who have families and okay, let's do game night, etc. What are some things that people can do in each of those cases?
Yeah, I think if you have families, one of the first things that I would say to do is maybe allot some time every day to just sit and talk about how people are feeling. Sit, especially if you have children, because if you are stressed out, if you are worried, they're watching you. Children or younger siblings are picking up on how your stress is manifesting for yourself. If you're on the phone, they're hearing your conversations. If you're worried about money or about your job, they are hearing this, and so that's building for them as well.
Yeah.
So allotting some time every day to just talk about how people are feeling, talk about what your kids know about what's going on, and so they can get that out. I think some other tools would be sleep. Just sort of some of the basics. We need to be getting our sleep because it kind of rejuvenates us and gives us that energy for the following day.
Right.
Nutrition is going to be really, really important at a time like this. The tendency when we are anxious and stressed is to lead towards comfort foods. This is not the time for that. And comfort foods are okay in moderation, but you really need your energy, your mind clear, your body to, just be in the best capacity as possible. I also like to say, let's use this time to play up on the sensory skills and sensory coping mechanisms we have. So, for your vision, are there things that you can look at, different imagery that, calm you down? Because what we want to do is amplify the to relieve and the stress. I don't know why my camera is doing that. Oh, here we go. To release the anxiety and the stress from our body. When we're anxious and we're stressed, we're tense. We constrict. And so what we need to do is utilize things that will help us to, just relax our bodies, relax our minds. And so images, looking at things, it might be a TV show, it might be a painting, it might be a picture of water, the ocean, whatever that is. Hearing, listening to your favorite sounds. Some people say listening to raindrops, the ocean, certain music just helps us soothe them.
Right.
So Smells are their favorite scents. For some people, lavender, eucalyptus oil, all these essential oils that are inherently relaxing to the body. That's what we're trying to do, playing up on our sensory coping mechanisms so that we can relax our bodies and relax our minds. Taste, a favorite drink, a favorite food, and movement. It's really, really important for us to move, for us to get outside, get some fresh air in moderation with distancing. But if you have a balcony, stand on your balcony, get some fresh air.
Yeah.
If you can walk around your block, these things are important. It's going to help us to relax our bodies and our minds so we're not holding the stress in.
Yeah. So I'm going to read a couple of the comments here. Camilla says she's been hosting virtual happy hours with their team members, many of whom are single and alone.
That's
Okay. She
awesome.
said they had a great virtual Jeopardy game on one of the happy hours. Yeah, that's awesome. Dr. Catherine says self-care and mindfulness is so important at this
Absolutely.
time. Absolutely, absolutely. Let me see if there's anything else that I missed. Um, Oh, Camilla also says she's concerned about the children who get breakfast and lunch from the school, internet from the school, and from the library. Ah, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So, hey, Paul, how's it going, sir? All right, Paul Graham. All right. So, listen, so we are only about 2 weeks into this thing, and we've had a lot of freaking out happening, and we see some of the creativeness happening. Yesterday or on Sunday, my neighborhood, we had a jam session in the cul-de-sac, right? We had a 90-minute concert, and that was kind of cool. What happens in 2 months? Let's say that we have to be here for another 6 weeks. We're here till the middle of June. What are some of the things that we need to be preparing for emotionally and mentally, if that is the case? And I'm asking you to speculate right now.
Hopefully, we're not here until June, but I wouldn't be surprised if we are.
Yeah.
And so, thinking about, just alternative and creative ways to remain connected,
Mhm.
virtual happy hours, concerts outside that connects us, but still maintains distance. All these different ways in which we are going to really utilize technology to stay in touch, to stay connected.
Mhm.
I also like to tell people, write down a list of the things that are stressing you out, the things that are worrying you, the things that if you had to think from now until June, if we are not back to our regular way of functioning, what will cause you stress? Write that out and spend some time proactively problem solving as much
Mhm.
as possible. There are
Yeah.
some things outside of our control. And I also like to note, when we're talking about coronavirus, we're talking about a stressor. And I
Right.
like to make the distinction between stress and a stressor, because stress is what happens with us internally, right?
Mhm.
It's what's happening in our bodies and our minds. We can manage our stress. Stressors are external, they're life events, they're things that we may not have control over. And
Wow.
so if we spend our time trying to figure out how to control coronavirus, we will constantly be stressed.
Ouch.
It's out of our control. We can't control it. All we can control is ourselves in this moment. That's
Yeah.
it. So I think it's really, really important for all of us to keep in mind that coronavirus, we can wash our hands, we can practice social distancing. Those are the things that we can control or manage, because that's us in this thing. And coronavirus, we don't have control over. And so being proactive, writing out what those stresses are, right, spending some time problem solving so that you can envision and, get a head start on what might come up for you over the next few months, so you're not caught off guard, so you're not, just sort of feeling unprepared. Someone just mentioned teletherapy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of therapists are going virtual right now. There are a lot of free therapy options that's being offered. Please, please, please reach out and get that additional support.
So let me ask you this, especially in certain communities, that word therapy is kind of like a bad word, right? Um, what what are the benefits of therapy? I mean, I'll unpack that a little bit more. A lot of times people think therapy means something is wrong with me, right? And so acknowledging that something is wrong with me is a fear, because I don't want, if I think something's wrong with me, then everybody else is going to know that something's wrong with me. So unpack that for us. Why should we access, and who should access therapy, especially right now?
Everybody needs to access therapy right now. I don't care who you are, what your race, class, socioeconomic status, everyone is experiencing. We all experience stress. We all experience worry. We all experience reactions to life occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
Therapy is just a mechanism to be able to talk that out, talk that through, and have someone listen and guide you to the goals that you would like. That's it. We do have a lot of work to do regarding destigmatizing therapy that probably won't get done during this time of coronavirus. But for those of us who are therapists, partnering with different leaders maybe during this time, a lot of pastors are going online, and it might be a good time to just kind of slowly bring in some different techniques and different coping mechanisms that, to help to destigmatize this thing and change the narrative and help people to understand that therapy is just a wall.
Right.
You bounce things against someone else, you're getting feedback, you're getting questions, you're just exploring what's going on, and we all need that.
Right. So is all therapy the same? Is there some special type of therapy? Do I just Google therapy and grab the first name? What should I be looking for, especially right now?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because I ask people all the time, what do you want in a therapist? And they've never considered that question before. So I would say, what are things that are important to you in choosing therapy? Is like choosing a partner. It's like choosing a friend, right? Like you want to ensure it's really about the fit. Every therapist is not the right fit for every person. And
Right.
so some therapists are experts in specific areas. So anxiety, stress, depression, suicidality, addiction, family, individual, couples therapy. So depending on what you are looking for, what you need, then what else is important to you? Race, gender, expertise, all these, the age, all these different things come up in people looking for a therapist. And so it's spending some time just thinking about, what do I need right now? And for the most part, if it's more general issues, then you can find any therapist. If it's more specific and tailored, then going onto websites like Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Girls, Therapy for Black Boys, all these different Doctors on Demand, Talkspace. You can look through profiles of therapists that's listed there and see what they say, see what they are experts in, and what you feel connected to.
Awesome. So if you've got questions, additional questions for Tiffany, we're here for another 7-8 minutes or so. Go ahead and post those questions in the chat. I'd love to post them on screen so that we can talk about them, that we can answer them as well. So let's continue that therapy conversation just for a moment. One of the reasons that some people don't access therapy is because they think it's expensive, or they don't know if their insurance will cover it, all of those different things. Can you talk to that for us? What should I be looking for, or is there coverage, or tell me a little bit. I don't even know what to ask. Tell me a little bit about the relationship between insurance and therapy.
Yeah, so we're talking about two categories of people. One, people who are employed and have health insurance. You can call your health insurance provider through your job. Most insurance companies, if not all, I would say, most jobs offer what's called EAP, Employee Assistance Program. That is where they have allotted sometimes 4 to 6 free sessions
Wow.
with the therapist for every employee.
Okay.
There are other jobs who might put a certain dollar amount to that EAP program. So we are going to pay this amount for you to see a therapist. For the most part, and if I'm wrong, I'll have you corrected. But I think most, if not all, jobs offer that to their employees. Okay. Behavioral health by law has become a part, and we're still fighting that battle in some ways, but it's a part of health insurance treatment. If you are not employed or do not have health insurance and you're looking to pay, because there are many therapists who don't take insurance. They are self-pay. Some therapists who are self-pay pay. They may offer, like a decreased rate. A lot of therapists do pro bono for a select number of sessions.
Yeah.
And so it's again going onto those websites and contacting a therapist, finding out how much it costs. Sometimes it can range from $75 all the way up to $300, depending on the therapist and sort of what they're doing. So there may be a cost to it. I like to say that I understand, finances, and we all have different financial responsibilities, but it's certainly worth the investment.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. So tell us, is there any resource that you would love to share? Maybe it's a book, maybe it's a game. What is something that we can look at right now to either get more knowledge or just kind of help us cope and move through the next few weeks of this?
YouTube is your best friend.
Okay.
All have access to YouTube. There are a number of books and things like that I can recommend.
Yeah.
But some may be more difficult than others to really work through.
Right.
I think there are a lot of therapists, a lot of mental health providers who are putting skills, worksheets, all these things online, so that people can freely access worksheets, freely access information. If you go to YouTube, for example, and you type in anxiety management skills, distress tolerance skills, and ensure that the individuals that you're looking at are licensed or qualified. But we are putting a lot of information for free on these networks so that people don't have to incur a cost to
Right.
get this information. Going to, Talkspace, going to Psychology Today, all these websites have articles, there are recommendations, there are videos that people can access for free to begin to understand what's going on with them emotionally, and to be able to have some tools that they can use.
Awesome. Awesome. Tiffany, where can people connect with you? I know we talked about Instagram a little bit earlier. Tell us a little bit about your Instagram and what you do there.
Yeah, so on Instagram, my name is the community clinician, the underscore community underscore clinician. You can find me there. I talk about mental health. I just try to use the space to address some of the fears, the concerns, the questions that come up in therapy, that people have a space to connect so that people don't feel so isolated around what they're experiencing emotionally, and just generate conversations and questions. A lot of people have questions similarly. Where can I find a therapist? What can I look for? What the process, it increases its own anxiety. So we talk through that. And so there's a lot going on Instagram. It's not a super professional page. It's also my personal page. So I try to mix it in and make it, very community oriented.
Awesome. Awesome. So listen, thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit, Tiffany. People that are watching this, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching a replay, go ahead and type hashtag boom boom, hashtag replay in the comments. And I definitely want to encourage you to get connected with Tiffany. We have a group also called the Storytellers Growth Lab. I just want to plug that and have you join us there. If you're interested in figuring out how you can tell your stories with more confidence, want to invite you to hang out with us there. So this is the time. This is the time to tell your stories. Now is not the time to shy away from it. A lot of people kind of figure, oh my goodness, I'm experiencing these things. I'm experiencing a little bit of panic. I'm experiencing some negativity right now, and I'm not dealing with it well. This is not the time to isolate. This is not the time to put yourself in a box or in a corner or in some place by yourself. Now is the time to connect. Now is the time to share your stories, because you never know, something that you've gone through, something that you have experienced, something that you've overcome, something that you've conquered, something that maybe you didn't deal with it in the best way, but you made it through it, is just the bit of information that somebody else will need to make it through their storm, to make it through their stuff. And it's not just one person. Everybody has stuff. Everything that you're going through in life is your stuff. Your stuff is your story, and your story deserves a stage. Tell it, y'all. All right. See y'all again on one of these storyteller sessions real soon. Thanks, Tiffany.
Bye.
Don't leave me yet.